This program contains adult content.
Is there a God?
Big atheist.
Really?
What, am I an idiot? Come on.
That yes, it would be nice if you could throw your sins and your responsibilities on someone else. But it's not true.
It looks like far-left lunacy.
I don't believe that it's true that religion is moral or ethical.
You don't need to follow anybody!
It's not human intelligence!
If someone doesn't value logical consistency, what logical argument are you going to give them that will demonstrate that they should?
Welcome to the Godless Revolution. Today is Friday, October 6th. This is episode 176. I am, as always, the fat-bearded guy behind the microphone, Mr. Dan Ellis.
I'm Ryan Duffy.
You kind of are tonight.
Yeah, I'm sitting over here.
Nice.
Old callback.
Ryan is not in studio with us tonight. He has some filming adventures to take care of.
Oh, I thought he had a mustachioed mishap.
The line for the mustache rides got way too long.
We are, however, joined in studio by the fabulous X.
Hi, guys.
From the Utah Outcasts podcast. It's been way too fucking long since we've had you on the show, man.
Yeah, I was going to try looking it up, see how long it has been, but I'm like, nobody but me or Dan or not even Matt over there would care. But me and Dan would care.
I'd be curious to see. It's been a while.
It was wintertime 2016, I think. It was sometime.
I think it's been almost a year.
Yeah. Sounds probably right.
That's okay.
Too long. Far too long. I'm glad to have you here with us tonight.
I'm glad to be here. I love it when I don't have to host.
Don't have to control all the things and then worry about editing later and doing all of that stuff. Editing is...
It's the bane.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's fun, but it's shitty at the same time.
Yeah, it can be fun, like when I find cool little clips or whatever, or when you get it just right, when you get it just perfect and it all flows really well and it sounds terrific and you get the right drops in different places and stuff. Like, that's awesome. Like, I'll call Tracy into the office like, hey, come and listen to this. It's fucking cool. This sounds like I know what I'm doing. But most of the time it's just like, I have to edit the show. What else can I do to fill some time for a little bit before I do that? But no, I'm really glad to have you here in the studio tonight. What did you guys do over the week? Let's start with you, Ryan/Matt.
Well, if I want to start with the thing that people care least about, there have been 2 football games, Patriots games, since the last show. Sunday and then Thursday. Lost one, won one.
Oh.
So they look like shit. So that's awesome. But
fucking Carr is out for at least, what did they say, 6 games?
Oh, I hope he prays really hard.
Yeah. That'll fix it. I'm
wants
sure.
To be a pastor.
I'm surprised that he didn't pray before the game to make sure that he wouldn't be injured.
Oh, but he did.
Oh, really?
I'm sure.
Well, he must have done something wrong then.
It's almost like there's no one there at all.
Piss off the invisible sky wizard. He's gonna fuck with you, praying or not, man.
I got a point spread to beat, motherfucker.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he could rig all the games. He must. Because both teams don't win every game.
Right.
So he's throwing it. He's throwing the games, God is, every time.
One way or the other. Well, and that's why I've always wondered.
Oh, I can't even believe I did not mention this.
What?
I didn't even put it in my What Matters piece.
Huh.
Does everybody remember fucking Tebow?
Yeah.
Remember the guy who was famous for fucking kneeling?
Oh, right. Oh, my.
Oh, yeah.
Well, but he did it in a respectful way.
And he did it while white.
And
he did it while white.
Yeah, he did it while white.
That's why.
And while praying to Space God.
Well, but the thing is, this is not the place or whatever, what was it that, what was his name? I can't even remember, but the complaint was, well, if I ran a restaurant and one of my waitresses, took a knee instead of serving. Yeah, that's not the problem. They did their fucking job. They didn't stop quarterbacking and kneel in the middle of the field. Tebow did do that in the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm.
So,
not during that paid for time before the game starts where the U.S. military is paid for them to take a fucking knees, or not take a knee, sorry, to stand for the pledge because we need more meat for the grinder.
I'm so surprised that nobody else has even mentioned that.
Yeah. I know.
Well, remember when Tebowing was a thing?
Yeah, it was called Tebowing.
Yeah,
everyone
I have pictures
was doing
of me doing that.
Yeah, people were doing that all over. Kids, everybody, everyone loved it. It was great. It was Tebowing.
It was the new planking.
Yeah, exactly. It was Jesus planking.
Oh, that's not too hard for him. He just puts his arms out.
Yeah, he's intimately acquainted with boards.
Hey guys, a little help.
Anything else?
Yeah, so I guess we could talk about Noah, Heath, and Eli, and Lucinda and Andrew after.
Yeah.
Who? No, I'm just kidding.
Some friends of ours.
Yeah. Well.
Oh, we want to talk about it now?
Sure.
Oh, I said after, and you said yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't hear the after part because I was drinking my drink.
Oh, I was thinking we should give Chris some time to talk.
And whenever I drink something, my ears close down. So
right.
That's how that works.
Well, yeah, you can't swallow if those flaps are open.
Right.
Biology. Yeah. So God Awful Movies was in town last Sunday night.
Oh, we're not going to do it after?
No.
All right. Go ahead.
Executive decision.
Hit the M key on your keyboard for putting a file marker down.
And that was fun. Chris, what's up?
Well, as some people may have discerned, I also work for the federal government, like Mr. Dan over here. And,
yes.
October is a shitty time to be a government worker that works on financial systems. So I've been busy doing grave shift for like the last 7 days solid, and so it's been trying, especially since the guy that they had me stuck on shift with is a damp as well that likes Trump.
They had you stuck on a guy?
They had me stuck with a guy. Yeah. Not on, but with.
Two?
Oh, and this guy's previously a bishop within the LDS church. Did his mission in South Dakota, so he said he was on the res a lot of the time. So I was listening to some of his stories, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're racist. Jesus. Well, I don't hate Trump. I don't like how he gets on Twitter, but he's done some real good stuff, I think. Like what? His tax plan.
Wait, well, what's the objection to him getting on Twitter? Is it just that it makes his guy look bad?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. He needs to shut up, is what he said.
Yeah.
And so
I don't mind if he does all this stuff secretly.
Yeah, go ahead and be a dick to everybody else secretly.
But don't make it harder for me to defend you.
Yep, exactly. That's what these people think.
These people,
indeed.
Ridiculous. So, Matt and I attended the live Gamcast.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
It was fun.
Ran into quite a few fans of the show while we were there. I was surprised, actually, at the number of people who came up and were like, "Hey, are you Dan Ellis?" And I'm like, "Yes." "Oh, I love the show, man. You're the Godless Revolution guy, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, I really like listening to the show. You guys are awesome." I'm like, "Wow, thanks, man." I'm always surprised when somebody recognizes me and says that they've listened to or read something that I've done, and I'm like, that's pretty fucking awesome. I'm glad that I'm entertaining for some people and that anybody would listen to something that I have to say.
Yeah.
But it's still always strange to me.
It is weird. And I had the pleasure of meeting Wes and Christy. But I missed out on Savid, who was apparently there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wish I could have met him. I looked for Savid and Christy after the show, because I really wanted to thank you guys for supporting our show, and didn't get an opportunity to do that in person. So, there's my personal thanks for supporting the show, and maybe I'll catch you another time, next time, whatever. Did get to meet Wes and talk to him, thank him for supporting the show. Couldn't have been nicer.
Oh yeah. I loved his Ren and Stimpy hat.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. It was kind of cool meeting the Scathing guys too, though.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. And Lucinda and Andrew as well. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was surprised when we went to Squatters afterward, and you guys were you got up to go and get your books signed and everything, and I just kind of wandered over, and I was hanging back, letting you guys talk to them and everything. You know, they were talking to some other people too, and I was just gonna go over and say hi, shake their hands and stuff. And Eli turned around and he's like, "Dan Ellis, how the hell are you?" And I'm like, really good. I didn't
Yeah, I didn't
know that he would know who I was.
I said, how do you know, Dan? Because, which sounds weird, because it's like, how do you know this piece of shit, Gavin? No, this is not what I meant, but I'm pretty sure I would know if you guys were, in close communication or something. I just have never heard of that, so I'm like, that's weird.
What did he say?
He just said, "Oh, are you kidding? The best beard on Facebook?"
Well, he did make that post on my timeline, just like out of the blue.
Yeah.
Like you've got a great beard or something like that.
Right,
I can't remember what it was, but just kind of surprised me. I think it might be because we had the discussion about some of the ads that they have on their show, and Noah and Eli both contributed in the discussion there, and that might be why. Okay. And then because of the beard,
right.
We'd had this long-ish discussion about some things, and of course I have a very distinguishable or easily recognized beard, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be why. That's my guess.
Yeah.
But he told me that he doesn't listen to very many atheist podcasts, but ours is in his queue. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I thought that was,
and then he said it's still in there, so that's saying something.
Yeah,
I haven't deleted it.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I don't listen to a whole lot of atheist shows, but you guys is still in my queue. So I thought that was kind of neat. But it was awesome to meet those guys. I think they put on a great show, and I've known Dan Beecher for quite a while. It was great to see Mark. I didn't actually meet Mark there though, or talk to him, but I think he's a fantastic part of the Thank God I'm Atheist show. I think he's very funny, very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Wish I would have walked over and said hello, but he was busy talking to a whole bunch of other people anytime that I happened to be in the area. And the GAM guys were awesome. I think you could tell they were really tired.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like I think Noah said they'd been on the road for over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was later in the evening, and I think they were tired, but they were still super good sports. And
yeah, they were
really, really nice to everybody, very warm and welcoming, and took the time to talk to whoever wanted to come and talk to them. Yeah, they were very, very cool.
Yep. Despite how awkward I was with them, they were still fine.
Well, and then you made that awesome drawing of them as well.
We could talk about that, I guess.
Yeah, let's do, because it's fucking awesome, man.
Well, we'll see. I mean, Eli likes it, but it's as I've already told you guys, caricature is not exactly about being flattering necessarily. It's simply about exaggerating likeness.
Right.
That's all that it's about. And so a lot of people don't understand it, they don't get it, or they think that it's supposed to be complimentary in some way, and it just usually is not.
Yeah, that's not the point of caricature.
Right. So a couple of people skewered me a little bit for the Noah one, but that's okay.
I think it was a great piece of artwork, man. I really envy your ability in that area, because I am artistically challenged.
Practice.
Yeah. I'll bet with practice I could be better. Mm-hmm. I just never have, because color has always been an issue.
True.
And
you could do some really interesting stuff, though.
Yeah.
Thinking you're doing it accurately, and then other people will be like, "Oh, it's an interesting color scheme or color choice you made on that."
Is this guy on acid or something, or is this some weird kind of new form of art where the colors are all fucked up? Maybe I'm on acid looking at it. I don't know. It's fucking weird.
It'd be cool.
And it takes you back to your childhood where, you drew a picture for your parents and they're like, "Oh, what a pretty puppy." And you're like, "That's an airplane."
Yeah, right.
Oh man, I remember reading a bunch of child psychology stuff when my kids were younger, and almost everything I read said not to stress what is actually in the picture. Like, don't try to name what's in the picture.
Right,
Just say, "Oh, well, this is great. What do you think of that?" And try to get them to talk about what it is versus you saying, "Oh, that's a great dog." And they'd be like, "This is a horse. Thanks for being an asshole."
Yeah.
That was always rough for me. I never really got the hang of it, but apparently that's a thing you're supposed to do, is not focus on what you think it is, but get them to tell you what it is.
Right.
So that you can talk about that. I've just never been a pro at doing so.
Hi, this is Thomas Westbrook, and I have a YouTube channel called Holy Kool-Aid where I take topics and I break them down in 5 or 10 minute videos, trying to give a laser-focused perspective on religion, philosophy, and science. And you are listening to the Godless Revolution podcast.
But to say, of course we have free will, the boss says we've got it, is to make a mockery of the whole concept. And it's also to invite the question, what kind of tyranny is this that you want? You want an all-supervising, all-deciding person. I ask you first, what sources of information do you have about this person's existence that I don't have, that are denied to me? I'd like to know. And second, why do you want it? Why do you want to arrive at a terminus of unfreedom where there is a celestial authority upon whom all things depend and from which all things flow? Why do you want that, and how on earth do you know that there's any case to be made for its existence?
Please stand by. The Godless Revolution will continue in a moment.
At least 58 people have died, some 515 have been injured in a mass shooting in Las Vegas.
The gunman has been named as 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, a white man who lived nearby.
Police describe him as a lone wolf attacker.
It's the worst mass shooting in U.S. history.
Hundreds of lives have been ruined. He wasn't a lone wolf. He was a pathetic wanker. There's been 273 mass shootings in America this year. It's never going to end unless someone does something. People were praising Trump for his presidential response. It wasn't presidential. He's the most powerful man in America. He wasn't talking about gun reform. He was talking about Jesus.
To the families of the victims, we are praying for you, and we are here for you. And we ask God to help see you through this very dark period.
You've asked God to help them? Don't worry, I've spoken to the magic man. There is no magic man. You're the magic man. You're the President of the United States. Don't talk about God. Let people know where to donate blood. Offer your Vegas hotel as a shelter. Or maybe stand up to the gun lobby. But then he's never going to do that. He took $30 million from the NRA last year. And look what he said would have prevented the Paris attack.
Paris has the toughest gun control just about in the entire world. France has the toughest gun control just about in the entire world. If a few of those people that are now dead, if a few of those people had guns strapped to their ankles or strapped to their waist, you wouldn't have the problem.
You don't solve a problem with a problem. You don't put out a fire with a blowtorch. He's drowning. Fetch my hose. Trump will blame anything except for guns.
You know, no matter what you do, guns, no guns, it doesn't matter. You have people that are mentally ill, and they're going to come through the cracks, and they're going to do things that people will not even believe are possible.
It's not guns. It's mentally ill people. And if you think that's moronic, look what he did in February. He signed a bill allowing mentally ill people to buy guns. And you're like, what? You can't blame them for gun crime and then give them a gun! The other thing I don't understand, why didn't he call him a terrorist? We all saw it. We saw the footage. It looked pretty terrifying to me. We all know the reason he didn't call him a terrorist is because he was a 64-year-old white guy. You know, if he'd have been brown, Trump would have been like, ban the Muslims, shut down the borders, storm the mosques. But because he was white, Trump's there, well, there's nothing we can do. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. Something needs to change. And I know there'll be people going, guns don't kill people. People do. Yeah? Well, prayers don't help people. People do. So stop praying and start leading.
All right, Matt, you brought a thing that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I just wanted to dovetail off of what Russell Howard said there.
Oh, okay.
But I went to Fox News and grabbed an opinion
That was
piece.
your first mistake.
No, I did it on purpose.
Oh, okay.
Hear him out.
Yeah, because I want to. No, wait. Why is Fox News bad, Dan?
They're
fair. And
I mean, you want to take the whole show to talk about why Fox News is bad?
Yeah. No, I thought it was interesting that there was a teaching point in there for me. So I grabbed an opinion piece because I know that the conservatives are going to be taking a specific angle on this tragedy and looking down their nose at Democrats.
That wouldn't happen anyway, but yeah.
Well, sure, but so I grabbed an opinion piece and then helped it out in some areas.
Oh, good. Who's the author?
I don't know.
Oh.
I didn't grab his name.
Just some fucking staffer anyway.
Yeah. Oh, well, I didn't recognize who it was, but
nobody cares about print journalism anymore.
Right. Sunday night, a deranged lone gunman fired hundreds of rounds from automatic long guns from his hotel window into an enormous crowd attending a country music concert on the Las Vegas Strip. Before the Las Vegas first responders even arrived, off-duty police officers and emergency medical service personnel attending the concert went into action, assisting the injured and creating a triage area in a safe zone, which is good. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, good job.
Then running toward the gunfire, the Las Vegas Metro Police entered the hotel, located the room that the shooter occupied, and made entry just as the gunman took his own life. In the end, this was the worst mass shooting massacre in our country's history, with more than 50 dead and hundreds injured.
Yeah, 59 total, including the shooter.
Right. Dead. Okay.
Dead, yeah.
It was an event that has rightfully horrified and in many ways unified America. And in the days to come, as the injured and the families of those lost try to deal with this tragedy and answer the questions as to why, they will need as much help and assistance as they can get.
Sure, yeah.
I would just add that one of those critical why questions is why are conservatives continuing to allow this to happen by opposing every single gun control measure put forward? That's a critical why.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if he thinks that's one of them. I mean, he doesn't actually mention them, but he goes on to say that the one thing that they do not need to hear are political leaders who will use this shooting to further their own political agenda or to do nothing other than stir the political pot to create chaos in their opposing political parties. This is not the time.
I fucking hate that argument.
Yeah.
That's such fucking bullshit.
Yep.
I
mean, let's not forget that shutting down conversation is a political position.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
theirs.
I had that same fucking argument with an asshole on my timeline on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, you can't even take a break. You can't even allow one day. Now's not the time to talk about this. Now's not the time to politicize this. Fuck you. You're politicizing this yourself. You're commenting that, oh, well, I shouldn't talk about the 58 people who were dead and the more than 500 who were injured. Mm-hmm. You're telling me that it's not the right time to talk about that because of this reason? You're fucking using their deaths for political purposes to shut me up, to tell me that it's not time to talk about this. Yeah. If it wasn't fucking time at Newtown, and it wasn't fucking time at any of the other mass shootings that we've had, when is the fucking time? Is next Tuesday okay for you?
Yeah.
I was so fucking... It made me so fucking mad. Like, it's never the right time to fucking talk about this. If now's not the right time, when will the right time be?
And it's worse because they're saying, no, we want this to happen again.
It's like, seriously,
or we don't care.
That made me so fucking mad. I tried to be pretty diplomatic in my comments and replies to him, but I was so fucking hot.
Oh, yeah.
So the best time to talk about the fire in the fucking room is when the fire's actually burning and,
well, let's just not talk about it. Let's just let it consume us and then we'll just move on from there.
Yeah. So I created an analogy, to help you understand how stupid this is. Not you, Dan, but this author.
No, yeah. Sorry. I was so fucking mad.
Yeah. It's worth getting mad about. All right. So let's say that I work as someone who sets housing code for safety. And I begin to take money from builders to intentionally roll back coding regulations that absolutely make houses more dangerous. Let's say that I then tell people that those codes have nothing to do with the structural integrity, but they do. And while houses are collapsing as a direct result of my lack of regulation, Dan comes to me and says, over 500 people were hurt and 58 died in collapsed homes just last night. Please implement safety codes. And I say, how dare you? This is not the time to mention building codes. Can't you see I'm grieving?
Yeah.
Fucking stupid.
Yeah.
He goes on to say that the investigation has barely begun. The numbers of dead and injured haven't yet been finalized. They hadn't at this point. And many of the families of those lost haven't even been notified. But former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, first thing this morning, began ranting about gun control, as did a few others. For once, can we not turn an American tragedy such as this into a political issue? For once, can we avoid an American tragedy?
Yeah, let's start there.
Let's start there. While there's still blood on the ground, can our political leadership have more concern for the grieving families of the dead than they do their own political careers? And can they hold their tongue just for once so as not to create chaos and divisiveness among Americans who would otherwise be united behind the families of the lost who deserve it most? Just for once, have some class. Amazing hypocrisy from conservatives giving the Republican in the White House right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me reread that paragraph, but this time have Trump in mind as he chastises the left. Can our political leaders hold their tongues just for once, so as not to create chaos and divisiveness among Americans who would otherwise be united behind the families of the lost who deserve it most? What the fuck are you talking about?
He is the leader and progenitor of chaos.
Okay, so conservatives don't like those qualities in a political leader, right? Is that what he's saying? When it comes to possibly preventable tragedies, BLM, the NFL, Puerto Rico, those come to mind for some reason. I'm not sure why. Not sure why I'm thinking about those.
Yeah, just toss some paper towels at him.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's not forget that by saying in these moments to put gun control back in our pockets, you're voting against measures to prevent this from happening again. Isn't honoring the lost lives all about not making their deaths be in vain? This is nothing more than an opportunity for you to pretend you have the moral high ground while actually avoiding the right thing to do. It's a false dichotomy. We can be grieving and say things are not okay. In fact, who is saying things are okay? Oh, yeah. You guys.
Well, and they're pretending to have the moral high ground while trying to shut down the discussion, which is a fucking immoral thing to do.
Right. But it's this. That's why I say looking down their nose, because there's like, this isn't the time. Look, let's wrap all of these dead bodies in the cover of pretending to give a shit about them so we can keep our political agenda. And then we'll blame them for using it as a way to try to get theirs.
Oh, and if you're other particular Fox commenters, you may even blame the people at the concert for their own fucking deaths. You may say some horrible shit like, oh, I don't know, I can't think of what the fuck her name was. I'll have to look it up later. But
there was a lady at conference weekend that said if they were observing the Sabbath, it wouldn't have happened to them.
Which is basically what this horrible fucking human being on Fox and Friends said the other morning when she said that, well, maybe he heard this country music and he heard God Bless America and he was an atheist and decided that, if these people, she's like, well, this is speculation at the end of her little thing. This is speculation.
Oh, it's only okay if we do it.
Yeah. But, maybe he heard that and decided that, typically country music fans are right with God and they're doing the right thing and they should have been in church on Sunday. And because they weren't, that it's okay to open fire on them. And I'm like, you are a horrible fucking human being.
Where was God then?
Yeah. So did God allow this to happen or did he set it in motion? It's got to be one of the two.
Right.
Did he, he either just stood by and allowed it to happen or he caused it to happen or both. I guess it could be both.
Right. Or, that's if he's Omnimax, right? It could just be that he's a fucking moron. And then he just happened to stumble into it, and then he's like, oh, me, damn it, that is bad.
I was going to say, there is a third option. He was just baked off of his fucking gourd, and he was just sitting back like, whoa, that's bad, man.
Yeah.
I should have done something.
If only there was Omnimax powerful being who could step in and do something to stop this shit. Like,
that's not me,
right?
though.
That'd be awesome.
I still have problems with iron chariots.
Yeah.
Well, and this ignorant fucking turd on Fox and Friends, she's clearly a Christian, right? I mean, to say some ignorant shit like that
and to be on Fox and Friends.
And to be on Fox and Friends. So without realizing the implications of what she's saying,
she's clearly a Christian, yeah.
That this God is a fucking, if this God exists, he's at least a fucking monster, right?
Yeah.
That he wouldn't step in and stop it, or he put it in place to teach these people that they should have been in church instead. So either way, he's a fucking monster.
Free will.
And she chooses to worship that being, not only believe in that being, but chooses to worship it. That is another one of the poisons of religion, that it makes you do horribly immoral things and worship a fucking monster. If the stories you believe in the Bible are true, that the God of the Old Testament exists and can step in and do things to stop things from happening or put things in motion, and he doesn't stop shit like this, he's a fucking monster, and you choose to worship that God.
Yep.
That's disgusting.
Hi, this is Megan Kennedy. I'm a speaker with the Satanic Temple. You can find me on Twitter at 6 Moments, and you're listening to The Godless Revolution.
So is this a time to say we don't need any further inquiry? All we need is faith in the boss? I would say not. It's just as when I am asked, when the question is put, is there free will? The believer will say yes, because we've been given it. Of course there's free will. The big guy says so. Who am I to disagree? Well, that seems to me to be absolutely self-cancelling nonsense. If I say, my answer when I'm asked is there free will? I say, yeah, I think there's free will. We have free will. We have no choice. At least I know I'm being ironic. The people who say free will, you've got to have it. It's a rule. We've got to have free will. It says, don't even know they're being literal. This is the difference between not just the ironic and the literal mind, but between the inquiring and the philosophical, the scientific mind, and the religious one. And that's why they are not just non-overlapping, or rather overlapping, but in a hostile manner, but they're irreconcilable, in my judgment.
The next rant will start right after this.
Here follows a public service announcement for the Two Skeptical Chaps podcast. Greetings, Americans! Over here in London, we are well aware that not all of you are loud, xenophobic, racist, sexist, religious nuts.
But many of your politicians who display these frightful traits seem to be quite popular.
Particularly a certain wall-obsessed, small-handed, best-word-using, daughter-perving, war-inciting, candy-floss-headed clown.
To those of you who choose to follow such balderdash, we strongly recommend not to listen to the Two Skeptical Chaps.
It probably won't be your cup of tea.
Otherwise, give us a listen.
Each episode, we cover any news or current affairs from across the globe.
Things that annoy or delight us.
That's two, as in the number 2.
And skeptical with a K.
The wrong way to spell it. Cheerio!
Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
I regularly bash on libertarians on the show.
They've got it coming.
And this next bit will demonstrate why I do that a lot of the time.
Oh, okay.
So this comes from Arvin Vorha, who's the vice chair for the Libertarian Party here in the United States. And on October 3rd, so after the shooting in Las Vegas, he puts out this statement. And
wait, he's not politicizing it, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure not at all.
No, because he's on the right.
Right. In the aftermath of the Las Vegas terrorist attack, as many of us search for something to blame, some will arrive at guns.
Yes.
That anger will apply to both guns and to your friends and acquaintances who support guns. How do you support a gun? I mean, other than like placing it on something to offer physical support for, like, they treat guns like they're fucking human beings, right?
Better than they treat human beings.
But before reaching that conclusion in sadness and anger, I ask you to consider why millions of people, many of whom are in your own families, many of whom are your friends and neighbors, so deeply support gun rights. Okay, you can support gun rights. You can't support guns.
You can't support gay rights or, black people's rights or anything like that. But gun rights, yes, let's get right on top of that.
Why do so many intelligent people believe that blaming guns doesn't make sense? It's hard to get away with murder, but it's really, really easy to get away with murder if you don't care about the consequences. It's easy to murder a single person with a knife, a brick, a shove. I'm guessing he meant to put shovel.
Or shiv.
Well, you can't shove somebody off the edge of a cliff or something.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that,
I guess.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. And it's also easy to kill large groups of people if you don't care about the consequences, if you plan to die anyway. You can drive a car into a school bus. Or fly a plane, which that seems fucking weird to me.
The school bus seats are higher for a reason,
Or fly a plane into a skyscraper. Poison, fire, homemade bombs are other options. If someone simply doesn't care about the consequences, there are many ways to do mass murder. Firearms, unlike most of the above, are highly effective defensive weapons.
And offensive weapons.
Correct.
Yeah, I was going to... sorry, I don't want to cut you off because there's a lot...
No, you're fine.
Yeah, he just named a whole bunch of ways that people could kill people if they wanted to. Why do you think they pick guns?
Because
if all of that stuff is available, then, sir, why are they using guns over and over and over again?
Yep.
That's the problem you have right now, and you just clearly outlined it for me.
So he says, firearms, unlike most of the above, are highly effective defensive weapons. A homemade pipe bomb is not a great defensive weapon against an assailant.
Bullshit.
If you use it, you hurt yourself as much as the assailant. Poison would be an inexplicable weapon to use against a would-be mugger or rapist. A car can be used to kill a busload of kids, but it's not a great weapon for self-defense. And while a 747 jet can be used in a terrorist attack, it's hard to imagine how to use one to defend your home against an invader. That's a solid fucking argument right there.
Yeah. And you know why this analogy is so great? Because all of those things have no other purposes. School buses, cars, 747s, they don't have any other purpose. Just like guns. That's why it's such a straight across analogy. Because all of those things are only designed to kill, but guns are just a little bit better at it. What is your point, dude? You're just making our argument.
And this guy brought up pipe bombs as a defensive weapon. Need I remind people that is how they fought the Terminator in the first movie. It's a great defensive weapon.
He goes on to say, guns, however, are better defensive weapons. Simply brandishing a gun can often scare off a potential assailant or maybe rational people around you who happen to care about the safety of, or care about their own safety.
Oh, fuck, it's a gun.
Yeah. Some dipshit is waving around a gun. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
In ways that brandishing a vial of poison or a 747 would not. Is there a way that you can brandish a 747?
Yeah. And he clearly doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Because I have had a ton of bar fights stopped the second I pull up my belt of my thing and show the tail fin sticking out of my belt loop. 747s are fucking scary to haul around. Like,
dude, can you imagine being squished by one of those?
Now, what was it that Colin Powell brought out during the meeting with Congress that he held like the vial of something? Was that anthrax that he brought onto the floor?
I think it was anthrax. Yeah,
I kept thinking it was yellow cake for some reason, but if it was anthrax,
it might have been yellow cake. But
that's how we managed to make it okay to kill 300,000 civilians in Iraq. You know, that's a pretty good brandishment right there.
Right. Yeah, I just brandishing a 747. I'm like, you're a fucking moron. He continues and says, there are a million ways to commit mass murder if you don't care about the consequences. But there are fewer ways to defend yourselves from violent assailants or groups of violent assailants. Not that guns work in every situation, always. I doubt they would have done much good in Las Vegas. Even the best tools and medicines don't work for 100% of cases.
Right. And so the best way to stop somebody on the, 32nd or 23rd? I get those mixed.
32nd.
32nd floor?
Yeah.
Is a good guy with a 747.
Just lobbed it right at the building.
Yeah.
My AK-747.
Yeah. Awesome.
But, that whole paragraph seems to me, it evokes in my mind a sense of somebody who is constantly fucking terrified that groups of assailants are going to attack them. Like, do you wander the streets thinking that groups of assailants are going to come and attack you for no fucking reason?
No.
Do you think there are going to be there's going to be a group of people who invade your home to murder you for some reason? Like, I'm a pretty out and open activist atheist, and I regularly receive death threats. So I have a home security system put in place with cameras and alarms on every door and window. I have dogs to alert me if any of that fails. I don't live my life in constant fucking fear of an assailant, or let alone a group of assailants are going to invade my home. Like, that to me smacks of a sense of self-importance and paranoia that is that is not mentally healthy.
Yeah, well, and I mean, part of the reason why you feel safe is because you sleep with a 747 under your pillow. But, but no, this really is. I'm about as cynical and mistrusting of people as a mentally quasi healthy person can be.
Yeah,
this is, and I don't think that they're all mentally ill. Certainly, many of them are, but this whole group of center right to far right people that are all, I mean, part of it is that they're using fear to make their argument because they want to keep their toys, right? That they don't believe all this. That's why this argument's so fucking ridiculous. But there's a certain segment that does believe this kind of stuff. And yeah, the self-importance and the fear, of course. But this is rhetoric that's being taught to them, and a lot of them are religious. There's a big thing in religion about fear. Monsters are real, hell and the devil and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And once the devil gets a hold of somebody, you can't do anything about it. They're just, and so, yeah, I think there's a huge fear factor, but it's all totally irrational bullshit.
Now, to have some fun with ellipses here, it says up there that there are fewer ways to defend yourselves from violent assailants. ... I doubt they would have done much good in Las Vegas. It's just like he just defeats his own argument up there.
He continues and says the terrorist attack in Las Vegas is the result of pure evil or of a mind so broken as to no longer be meaningfully human.
Citation needed.
Well, let's go with that then. Wouldn't the reasonable thing, following something like that be to say, okay, well, let's make sure these kinds of guys don't get a hold of these kinds of weapons again.
Right.
So what is his point?
It was no crime of passion, but a planned assault carried out with military planning and precision.
No, he didn't get away, so that's not really precision.
Someone willing to do all that could have found plenty. Okay, sorry, it's just worded funny. Someone willing to do all that could have found plenty of other ways to kill. Right. Blaming guns is easy, but it's meaningless.
No, it's meaningful and easy because why didn't he pick another weapon? That's the whole question.
Yeah. What other weapon?
He could have done this so many other ways. Therefore, guns are not to blame. Oh, well, he used a gun. But still, he could have done it all these other... Yeah, but he did use a gun. Well, but he could have used a 747. Oh, you know what? You're right.
But, that 747 is insured. It's registered. And what other weapon?
So is the car and the school bus.
Yeah, and they have...
And the pipe... oh, never mind.
No, never mind. Not that one. Well, but the thing is, what other weapon could have done what he did, where you bust out a window from the 32nd
That's
floor,
the point.
Shoot 400 feet down and like 400 feet out into a crowd of people, piercing through people, causing shrapnel to ricochet off the ground. None of those other options would do that. A car slamming into people would eventually stop because that's how momentum works. A 747, same difference. It's physics.
Yeah.
Dude, and from that distance, I don't know how many of the videos you guys have watched about the attack and live coverage or people's cell phone footage of it or whatever. But from that distance, you hear the bullets hitting the ground and other people before you even hear the gunshot itself.
Right.
So when you're watching the videos, you hear a bunch of like snapping sounds, and that's the bullets hitting the ground or other things around before you even hear the fucking shot.
For the powder, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So these people had they had no idea where it was even coming from because you don't even hear what's happening until it's already done.
Right. Well, it's not like the guy that was shooting from the 32nd floor was actually able to pinpoint people with the rounds that he was using, with the weapons he was using. He was spraying into a crowd to cause mass havoc, mass damage. He was not.
And how, so let's just say let's just follow this guy's argument. So let's say I've perched myself on the 32nd floor. I've got a room full of throwing knives. How long does it take me to accomplish what he did?
I got all these ninja stars
sharpened. From that height into that crowd, like forever.
Yeah. Like I've got a pretty good arm, but there's no fucking way.
Just imagine, I'm going to mute the mic just so I can do
yeah.
Oh, I got someone on the sidewalk.
Well, no, I didn't grow up with comic books. I grew up with sports, so I can more than but even
I'm saying,
still,
but trying to peg somebody from 400 feet up with a throwing star.
Oh
or
yeah,
it's like hoping.
But this is exactly what I'm saying. Like he's providing all of these other options. So it's like okay, well, let's this is going to be a weird analogy. But this. Let's set up this like fun little animals race day, right? And everyone bring your own animal, right? And everyone's going to go get a fucking cheetah, right? If you can. But then he's going to say, well, no, you could have run it with a snail or a beetle all these are viable options for running the animal race.
A tortoise.
Totally. Yeah. Tortoise. Yeah.
You bring the hippo.
Yeah, right. Or like blue whale, right? For the 747, brandish a blue whale at the animal race. It's just nonsense. No, is he? Do you think he's pretending?
No, he's dead serious.
I think this guy's trying to be sincere.
He's dead serious. And it was actually a listener of the show who brought this to my attention and asked for my thoughts on it, and I was like, it's fucking bullshit, and this guy is not a good thinker. Like, he's just full of garbage.
Well, for anyone to reference pure evil.
Right.
Come on, man. Like, he did something very fucking shitty, but to say he's pure evil.
Right. Well, okay, so now I'm going to say guns are pure evil. What do? We're at an impasse.
Yeah.
So, great job for bringing that up. Like,
yeah. His post continues and says, the gun laws, waiting periods, are distractive scapegoating, keeping our minds focused away from the truth. With or without guns, we are vulnerable. Carrying guns often make us safer, but nothing makes us 100% safe. Gun bans function as placebos that add no safety, only granting the illusion thereof. Which that whole paragraph is fucking bullshit. It's garbage. It's wrong. He's fucking wrong when he says that with or without guns, we are vulnerable. Sure, we are, of course. Carrying guns often make us safer. No, statistically, you're not safer. If you are carrying a gun, the statistics prove that you are more likely to harm somebody else or have your gun used against you or have an innocent bystander harmed in the process of you attempting to use it because you're a fucking moron. You don't train with it constantly. You're not the kind of person who should just have a gun as a fucking whoopee blanket to make you feel more secure.
Yeah.
Well, and
go ahead. No, I've been talking a lot.
I was gonna say gun bans function as placebos, except we actually have case studies in countries that are, Australia after the Port Arthur incident there. That's not a placebo. Right. They did a ban. They did a buyback for a lot of people's weapons. And what's happened? Oh, geez, not a single mass shooting since then.
And even if that was true, I would be fine with it because placebos do get results.
Yeah.
So if it was a case where, all right, I've got a headache. I'm going to take this sugar pill. Oh, I actually feel better.
It's Scientology.
Well, if a gun ban actually makes us safer, fine. Then that's fine. But the other thing is, how vulnerable were the people at the Las Vegas concert while we have no gun laws? We'll be vulnerable without guns. What about the people in that crowd? What do you call them? Were they fortified?
Yeah, well, and they wouldn't have been any more safe had every fucking one of them had a gun.
Right.
None of them would have been more safe if they had a long-range weapon capable of firing back at this asshole because they didn't even know where the shots were coming from initially.
And police
It would not have made them even the tiniest bit safer.
No, and police were there on scene, and still 58 people got killed.
Yeah, it would have maybe made them feel safer, but it doesn't make them safer.
Yeah, they need to hold on to their big old swinging 747. That's what they want.
I'm honestly surprised this guy hasn't brought up Chicago yet. I love it when the right brings up Chicago in these case studies. And well, they banned all guns there, and look at all the violence that's still happening. Yeah, because you can drive like 12 miles to another state and get those guns.
Get them all.
The other thing I wanted to mention before we continue on with just the last little bit of this is that you, Matt, mentioned that, they talk about, well, he could have used bombs, he could have used whatever, but he didn't. And, he used guns. This guy actually did have stuff to make bombs. He planned to create a bomb to bomb something.
A whole carload of tannerite.
But that wasn't the first fucking thing he did, was it? He didn't go to the bomb first in order to kill as many people as possible. He chose a fucking gun.
And you know why we don't have very many bombings? Because it's hard to get that shit. It's banned for us.
Banned. Yeah. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and explosives. People forget about the explosives part of the ATF.
It says, we deserve better than placebo politics, where meaningless actions are taking... meaningless actions are I'm sure he meant to say taken to make us feel like something is happening. Legally, I believe in repealing all gun laws. They are nothing but distractions. They are simply nuisances for non-murderers and placebos for those who understand neither guns nor the hundreds of other ways to kill. This guy thinks the answer to solving the problems of mass shootings like what we just went through with Las Vegas is to repeal all gun laws.
What fucking gun laws are there even?
We need more guns.
Well, you're not supposed to have an automatic weapon for one, but you can buy things.
All the stuff that modify it to make it fully auto.
You can buy bump stocks to basically turn it into a fully automatic weapon.
Well, the silliest one I saw was the crank, the trigger crank that you can buy, where it's like a little toy wind-up crank that you put on your fucking trigger.
And it just hits the trigger over and over.
Yeah, like 3 times per revolution. And so it's just like, how stupid you look holding an AR with this one arm, and you're like, do 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 do.
But I mean, can either of you guys think of any other scenario where we use this kind of reasoning?
What kind of reasoning?
Where we have a big problem. And the solution actually is to add more of whatever's causing that.
Well, his argument would be that
saying
it's not the guns that are caused.
But he's just fucking stupid and wrong. Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Well, as the fill-in for Ryan, he would suggest that you can fight fire with fire.
Yeah, well, that's because fire's attracted to fire. So it naturally is attracted to other fire.
If guns were attracted to other guns, we would just have this massive giant pile of guns somewhere in central portion of the United States.
A whole bunch of fucking hillbilly legs hanging out from where it's still stuck in their holster.
He took my gun!
But seriously, though, I mean, fire with fire.
I can't think of anything else. I mean, you can't fight obesity by feeding people more.
But but that's in the fire thing is in very specific set of circumstances, because firefighters don't show up at structure fires and shoot flames out of the truck. They shoot water, the antidote.
They don't show up to a fire at somebody's house and be like, hurry, burn the next one.
Yeah, well, and then they still...
Right. Everybody out of here. We got to drop this thing to the floor.
Well, and even in the cases where they do use fire to help fight the fire, it's not that they're just out wandering somewhere away from the fire, setting other fire in hopes that it will stop the other fire that's a mile away.
Right.
Ryan gets on the phone, calls somebody in New York. Hey, start burning that field over there.
Just in case.
It'll stop that fire over here.
Nothing stops a bad fire like
a good fire.
Good guy with a bat. Never mind.
And
cut that part.
His conclusion is, and then, as individuals, as communities, let's try to understand and handle the actual problem. People becoming so twisted that they are willing to engage in mass murder, indifferent to the consequences.
But they will do those mass murders.
Okay.
That hadn't occurred to me.
I'm glad we solved the actual problem of fucking twisted people.
Murder's bad and good.
Okay, so now he's acknowledging that we have at least a portion of our population that's so twisted that they're willing to engage in mass murder and they're indifferent to the consequences.
Uh-huh.
That's something he's saying is going on.
Yes.
I agree with him.
Yes.
I don't think the solution is to give them firearms.
Make it easier for them to get the firearms.
Exactly.
He does.
Yeah. Yeah, he would choose to roll back, as the Trump administration has done, regulations on supplying people with diagnosed mental health issues.
Not just
the ability to purchase firearms.
Not just these so-called responsible gun owners that they're always claiming, but actually mentally ill people.
Yeah, people who have been adjudicated to not even be able to control their own finances.
Right.
The Republicans want to enable them to purchase firearms.
Not even control their own brains.
Yeah. He concludes with, yes, that's a more complex problem, a harder challenge to face. It's not something that can be accomplished with some placebo law, but it is the real problem, the only honest and relevant challenge. Respectfully, Arvin Vorha, Vice Chair, Libertarian Party. And when I posted that to my timeline, it was, I said something about how, well, this must be, apparently this is the cutting edge of rational thought within the Libertarian Party.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this guy's the vice chair of the Libertarian Party in the United States, and he writes something this fucking stupid.
Well, I mean, you got to consider that their party platform is everybody can do what they want.
I was going to say, they have a platform? I don't know that they actually do.
No, they don't.
What is the Libertarian Party platform?
Stay out of my business.
Yeah.
It's kind of like asking, 20 different people of any various Christian denomination, to define God for you, and you'll get 20 different answers. That's the same thing with the Libertarian platform. None of them fucking know. I just want to be able to smoke weed and not have the government fuck with shit and not pay taxes, man.
Yeah, not pay taxes.
It's even worse than that, because you get into little L libertarian and capital L libertarian shit, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, what are you people, what are you on? Why does this have to be your religion now?
Yeah.
Well, you worship the state, Chris.
The state's done some good shit for me. I'm sorry.
But one of the through lines.
I like working for the government.
For libertarians, for sure, one of the through lines is this no laws, kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
Small government, get out of my business, leave me the hell alone, let me do what I want bullshit, which, as I've said before, is
anarchy.
It is anarchy, but it's maybe, it's probably a fine system for running, a village of 20 or 30 people.
Mm-hmm.
And, if it's sort of dictatorial, where it's like, yeah, everyone do your shit, and then one guy gets kind of weird and starts looking at his sister funny, you kick him out, and then everyone else stays and continues being libertarian with you. But
so the FLDS church then? Okay, I got it.
Yeah. The guy you kick out goes and forms the FLDS church.
It's just funny to me that these guys claim no laws. We don't want any laws. We don't want anybody governing us. But they're usually also Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're right.
They tend to
the
go
ultimate
no laws except biblical laws.
Yeah.
Right. They
no shellfish.
They surrender to the ultimate authoritarian and then want no laws at all on earth.
Hey, Matt, that's a nice shirt you're wearing. Is that a cotton poly blend? I'm going to stone the fuck out of you if that's the case.
Oh man, I'll have to run.
No, I don't have an arm. Remember?
Right. Yeah.
Hey, this is Taylor Grin from grinandbearint.com, where we do news, analysis, and commentary, and you're listening to Godless Revolution.
We know the equations that the electrons that are responsible for chemistry obey. And there's no ambiguity in these equations. They could always be wrong. It is always possible to say, well, we just don't know what is going on. That's fine. But what we have is the evidence of every experiment ever done telling us that these equations are correct. To overcome that, we would need very, very strong evidence. Just one experiment telling us how the soul is pushing around the chemicals in our brain. But we don't have that.
Please stand by. The Godless Revolution will continue in a moment.
Hey, everybody, we're the Utah Outcasts, and we want you to listen to our show.
We're a rowdy bunch of super liberal atheists that reside in the state of Utah, who bring you current events and featured content on a semi-weekly basis.
Whether it's us poking fun at the religious right or ranting at the world in which we all reside, we want to borrow your ears for about an hour twice a week.
Hey, and don't forget to tell them the best part about it.
Oh, yeah!
The show's free for all.
It is indeed. So if you like free, we're available through iTunes, Overcast, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Play, Patreon, and even in full HD video via YouTube. Give us a listen. You won't be sorry.
Thank you to everybody who has rated the show on iTunes and Stitcher and are following us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And to all our Patreon patrons, you make the show possible.
All right, X.
Hey.
we wanted to talk to you a little bit about your potential to have gone down the shitlord road versus the fine, upstanding SJW you are today.
I was going to say, what's an SJWR? Regressive? Yeah, there you go.
But no, I've heard you mention before that you were, and well, I mean, who doesn't occasionally indulge in some really terrible music like
ICP.
Occasionally, we've all got those weird indulgences, right? Where,
wait,
I understand.
Do you like ICP?
There are a couple of their songs that
I've actually become known for being a juggalo.
I know you are.
Atheist community.
Like, I can't listen to an album or anything like that, but there are a couple songs that I'm like, yeah, I get that. Like, the how many times? That's one of my favorites.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of boys having fun.
Okay. But no, I've heard you mention before that you could have turned out much different from who you are today had you not done something or made a change or allowed another voice to come into your head. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the biggest thing is developing a sense of empathy. A lot of people have a very underdeveloped sense of empathy. It's always the very selfish thing about each other, where we care about what we care about, we think about what we think about, and the only voice that we care to hear is our own. And so when you start hearing other people's voices and stuff, you could go one of two ways about this. It's like, it's either complete bullshit, they're making this up, it's just trying to get attention, or, maybe they have a point. Maybe it's something we need to listen to people about.
Yeah. Yeah, I think way too many people are way too self-involved. They don't take the time to think about how their actions or the actions of other people even could affect people that they care about. It seems that they only, there's no reflection on how their actions, thoughts, words, and deeds could affect people around them other than how that may reflect on them later on down the road.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just that what they throw out there, what they say, do, or don't do could affect other people in their lives.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people that just, they live for the moment when it comes to how their brains work, and they get ensconced in just everything that's going on within their own head. And then they don't think about, later on down the line, maybe this will come back to haunt me. Maybe this is something I need to really think about. And so, when I started my path down to the atheism route of things, I mean, I was always for the longest time, an atheist, but I didn't realize that there was a thriving community of atheists out there. There wasn't vocal atheists. And so when I started learning that there were YouTube channels devoted to atheism, I mean, one of the first ones I saw was the Atheist Experience, and you better believe I sucked down every fucking video I could find on that when I was looking for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I started looking to people in the other parts of the community. So I started watching TJ Kirk, aka The Amazing Atheist, who actually doesn't have that name anymore.
He was amazing for so long. It's amazing. He was the amazing atheist.
Is he the micro atheist now, or?
No,
I only just learned that about him.
I was telling him about the.
So you watched him pour the hot oil on his balls, yeah. And the
Matt had no idea. I was talking to him about it before you arrived tonight.
I'm like, I wish I didn't have those thoughts going, the GIF going over and over in my head right now. God damn it. Guys, don't go to Encyclopedia Dramatica. Whatever you do, don't even bother Googling that one.
I was telling Matt, I think it's even out on Rational Wiki. There's a link to the video.
And so, I mean, a lot of these people, they do it for the shock value, the entertainment value, but a lot of the times people don't realize that even when you're watching things just to be entertained by them, you are slowly normalizing a lot of the stuff that they talk about. And so you get a lot of people out there that are anti-social justice. And when I think about it now, the person I am, I'm like, why would anybody be against equality amongst other people? I don't understand how people would be that way. And then you start thinking about it, it's like, well, because they have to sacrifice a little bit of privilege, and anytime anybody has to give that up, we know that people feel like they're being trod upon. They feel like they're being what's the word I'm looking for here?
They're being oppressed.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And don't tread on me. As a cishet white guy, I have to think about it, and I'm like,
I've got it pretty good. It's not really ever been really that hard for me growing up. And I don't have to worry about cops pulling me over. I don't have to worry about, especially in Utah, I've had lots of friends where they've told me about their driving while black. And I'm like, oh, you're just being silly. That's not that bad. It can't be that bad. If you just do what they say, everything will be fine. Right. And realizing that's part of the problem right there too. It's just, you shouldn't have to do everything they said. So,
what clicked for you though? It's was it a process or is there a moment?
Well, for me, my biggest hang up used to be feminism. I used to be anti-feminist out there because I felt like a lot of this is just people, virtue signaling. There's a lot of people just trying to feel like they're scoring brownie points for being a feminist kind of thing. And I was like, well, they just want dominion. They want to make misandry a thing. There's no such thing as misogyny. They've got it great. They have the pussy and they get to determine who gets to use it. That kind of thing. Yeah, I was really, really in a dark place at this time. So,
well, it's good to know because I always thought rape was a real problem.
No, the thing is,
that's a relief.
No, the thing is, rape is a real thing, but there's a lot of people in the MRA type of community where they go, it's over-reported. It's, people claim that they're raped even though they're not, even though those cases are few and far between when it comes to the actual cases of that thing happening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't say if anything. We know that rape is hugely underreported.
It's underreported.
Yeah.
And so, like I was saying, feminism wasn't really my thing until I heard Arvin Vorha, who gave a talk. I think he was in Australia at the time talking to probably QED when he was down there for that. And he was talking about how you can be a guy and be for feminism. When I was like, no, you can't possibly do that. That's bullshit. There's no way that you could do that. That's just you not serving in your own interest there. When he framed it as as you can be for gay rights and not be gay. And I had always been a proponent of LGBT rights, but I was anti-feminist. And so when he framed it that way and I was like, oh shit, he's right. I'm not gay.
Oh, yeah.
But I think people should be able to marry whoever they want. And so it started to click in my head where I'm like, you don't necessarily have to go with everything people say, but it's good to just have the support for them out there because there are problems that really are happening in this country against people, whether they be male, female, a lot of the problems that the guys that are the MRAs try to frame is that this is happening because of feminism. And it's like, no, a lot of these problems are happening because we live in a vastly misogynistic culture.
Mm-hmm.
When you have the people that are dying at their jobs or dying in the military, it's like, well, we only just barely started allowing women in combat roles. And the only reason we didn't have them in there is because they can't hack it.
Right.
And I've known plenty of guys, within the military that are frail, thin guys, and they're still expected to carry their own weight. Why is it not a problem for them? But the minute we get a girl in there that wants to shoulder a ruck and carry a light assault weapon, why is it all of a sudden a problem? Well, we can't have them in there because they're going to be distracting to the troops. And then you start hearing it and you start thinking about it and you're like, holy shit, we really are sexist,
They're going to be distracting to the guys who can't fucking control themselves.
So that's when you started realizing that straight white men aren't the only victims.
Yeah, exactly. Tongue in cheek, guys, tongue in cheek.
I don't even care anymore. I used to worry more about it. I don't care anymore. Let them say what they want.
So it was Arvin's argument that made you kind of see things from a different perspective.
It cut through a lot of the cognitive dissonance I had at the time.
Yeah.
And so it made me start to realize, maybe some of the people that I'm listening to are kind of toxic. Maybe I should look at these people's arguments and start going after them. And that's when I started to realize that a lot of these folks were, they claim to be liberal, even though they're not quite. They want authoritarianism. And then I start looking at they want men's rights. And that's just the same thing as saying they don't want women to be considered as equals as males. They don't want trans rights.
They're libertarians.
Yeah, they're David Smalleys. They're a bunch of armatures, let me tell
you. So do you think that because your views on the LGBT community, because of those views, do you think that created an opening there that you were sort of available to the arguments that Arvin was making. I'm just trying to think, if you were totally shut down to the idea of equal or marriage equality, then what impact would his analogy have had at all? Because I think a lot of those guys are not.
And that's the thing, is that I've realized that I had inroads already in one section where, I had, what would they say? Like, you have a chink in your armor, where you have a...
That's racist.
Yeah. No. Come on now. That's English.
That's lacist.
Oh, shit. And so there are people out there that probably do have a problem with all of it, the whole gamut of everything. If it's not white cishet male kind of thing, it's like, I think I've had it hard too. I've had a hard life, without realizing that other people have had the difficulty setting put on legendary before they were even born.
Yeah, right.
And so, Arvin doing that whole the talk that he was giving. I mean, even before I was a outstanding atheist about everything, I was for gay rights and everything. Even when I was a quote unquote Christian, a Baptist living in Utah, just not a practicing one or anything. Just I didn't have a strong faith in anything. I didn't go to church. I didn't do anything like that. And when I first met my current wife, not my future wife or anything. No. That just came out really weird. Sorry,
She's not my second wife.
Not my second wife. No, it wasn't like I was shopping at the time. I'm just saying.
My current ex-girlfriend.
If she hears this, maybe. No, I don't know.
But she is your ex-girlfriend. She's your wife now.
Yes,
sure. Yeah.
Your
Indeed.
most recent ex-girlfriend.
So when we first started going out, this was like right around the time that Utah had its whole Prop 3 thing going on, where you wanted to say no to Prop 3 because that was you can't have gay marriage in the state.
Right.
And I'm like, yep, I'm already voting against it. No on Prop 3. Good. Got it. And people were and this is like Davis County, like, Weber County kind of stuff when I'm going to fairs and stuff. And they're like, oh, okay, that's shocking. We were expecting more people have to fight people more often for this kind of thing. And I don't know if it's the countenance that I have where it's the bald head and the goatee thing going on. I don't know if people think it's a white supremacist guy walking around over here.
I think I get that a lot with the beard.
And so, it was just surprising that people were shocked. They're like, oh, well, he's cool with it. Yay, good. We have somebody on our side. But yeah, going back to your point, I think having that initial opening already there really helped out in me seeing things later on. For people that are not exposed to it, that don't think in those kind of terms, I think it might be a lot harder to sell for a lot of people.
Yeah, for me, for a long time, I referred to myself as an egalitarian instead of a feminist because
I remember that time.
Yeah, because I had bought into this whole idea of, all of these rad femme women out there are just toxic and they're spewing hate and bile where it need not be, and they're just causing a stir and they're just being uppity, and I'm like, I look back now and I'm like, I was totally wrong. And it was actually a conversation that I had online with Russell Glasser.
Mm-hmm.
When we had him on our episode, I even mentioned to him that, the conversation that we had online changed my view of things.
Right.
And it was him pointing out that, even within the atheist community, we have a lot of very firebrandy atheists who may say a lot of shit that I disagree with, but I wouldn't abandon atheism and say that, that I'm an agnostic. I wouldn't choose to not adopt the label of an atheist still. I would still call myself an atheist, but reject the people who I think are doing harm to the movement overall. And he said,
Milwaukee.
And he said,
how much time do we got? No.
Well, and he said, it's the same type of argument that I was trying to use, that, well, it's those radical people. I don't want to identify with them. And he's like, you wouldn't do that for atheism, I hope. And I said, no, you're absolutely right. I wouldn't. And so I had to recognize that, I'm using really shitty argumentation here and a really piss poor reason for not adopting the label of a feminist, or recognizing that is still a valid label for a whole bunch of people, because I disagree with a minority of people who I thought were toxic at the time. And so it was recognizing that I was like, oh shit, yeah.
So that's
you're absolutely right.
So both of you had an avenue that you were open about, that was utilized in an analogy that, I mean, because you could have just said, well, what's the difference? It has gal right in the name. It's all the same,
Shit, I never thought of that.
No, yeah, like I said, if it hadn't been for that interaction with Russell, I'm sure I would have eventually come around, but I don't know how long it would have taken.
Interesting.
But, and it's interesting that when we had him on the show, he even asked, well, what did I say that made you change your mind? And at the time, I'm like, I don't even remember exactly, but whatever you said, totally shifted my view on things.
Back when we were pros on the show.
And yeah. And I think actually it wasn't until really recently that I remembered exactly what it was. And it was that argument that I wouldn't choose to not call myself an atheist anymore just because of, I don't want to name any names, but there are certainly people in the atheist community that I agree with on a lot of points, but I think some of their views and the way they go about communicating them to other people are very toxic, and it turns people away and shuts them down and makes them not want to be involved with the community at large. And
yeah,
I still call myself an atheist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the biggest problem I have is when people think you have to have some sort of intellectual purity. Like you have to have these purity tests to determine whether, that's not a true feminist, that's not a true atheist, that's not a true this, even though when you use that label yourself, it means what you want it to mean. I mean, there are, milestones that need to be reached within, being able to use that kind of, descriptor for yourself. You can't just be like, I hate all women, I'm a feminist. You can't say something like that. And you can't say, I'm an atheist, but I believe in Jesus.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are certain things that you need to have adopted as part of your worldview to say that I am.
You are blank. Yeah. Whatever label.
Yeah. To say that I am X.
Hey. MX.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. It's been a real fun journey, especially getting into podcasting and meeting all sorts of people, getting to garner an audience and have them listen to you, and you in turn listening to their stories and internalizing it the best way that you can, because nothing changes your mind quicker on a lot of things than hearing somebody's, tale of woe, where they talk about how hard it was to be a trans person living in this town with these religious parents and stuff like that. And you're like, fuck, I never had to do anything like that. My parents just got a little bit angry, but they never drove me out of the house or anything. And so when you get stuff like that, or when you hear girls talking about how when they were brought up, their parents were pissed at them because they wanted a boy kind of thing. And it's like, that's kind of fucked up, man. So developing that sense of empathy has a lot to do with, how you grow as a person in this world, I think.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Turning this back to the talk about guns a little bit. There was the musician with one of the bands who were playing at the festival who previously was a pro-gun rights conservative guy, and after that all happened, released a statement saying, I was wrong. I was wrong to think that everybody should have access to a gun, that guns make people safer.
I think he said that, he bought into the
good guy with the
bad
gun
guy,
thing.
good guy. Yeah. And after seeing that and just realizing there's no fucking way any good guys with guns could have stopped or even slowed that down.
Well, and I think he also said in his statement where he said, even the good guys with the gun, if they were to brandish their weapon within that crowd, how are the police to know
who was the good guy?
Yeah. Who's who? Yeah. Right. I mean, you can't just be out there waving a 747 around.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that, when all of this went down, of course, I was shocked. I was angry. I was sad, but I didn't realize how much it had really affected me personally until I read the story of that guy changing his mind. And then during lunch one day, during the week, I think it might have been Monday following the shooting. I read that he had changed his stance and why and what he had been doing during all of this. And Tracy wandered into the kitchen and, she was asking what's going on. And I'm like, did you hear about this guy who changed his stance on guns, who was part of the thing? And I started trying to explain to her what had happened in the news and that this guy was all over the news because he had changed his mind and people were upset about it and other people were cheering or whatever. And in telling her about it, I said, as part of what he wrote, he said that he was on his phone not knowing whether or not he was going to live through what was going on, and was sending messages to his family members telling them how much he loved them, how much he cared about them. I'm getting emotional about it again, but telling them these things and not knowing whether or not he was going to live through it all, and sending his wife like a living will in case he didn't live through it. And that it was at that point that is what in his mind changed it for him. And it was like the reason I'm glad he changed his mind. I'm totally happy that he has come around to the right side of things.
But look what it took.
Exactly. Look what it took. It took, he didn't have enough empathy for others who had gone through similar situations before. He didn't have enough empathy for the families who had lost children in a mass shooting in Newtown. Mm-hmm. But when it personally affected him, that's what it took.
Yep. And that's what we hear every time from articles like Mr. Libertarian there, and also from the article I read where, shame on the left for trying to politicize this.
Yeah.
When we know fucking goddamn good and well that what he's doing is trying to say, I'm going to wrap my rights in all of these deaths and then blame them for doing it so that they look despicable. And that's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
That's worse.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the left was knowingly using those deaths as a way to push gun control, that's better than knowingly using the deaths to keep guns on the streets so that this can happen again.
Absolutely.
So,
they're making a conscious decision that way, right?
Right. Yeah.
This is Mithrin, author of The ABCs of Science and Mormonism, as well as I Should Start a Cult, and you're listening to The Godless Revolution.
Do you give people who make this case that was the beginning and that there had to be something that provoked the beginning, do you give them an A at least for trying to reconcile faith and reason?
I don't think they're reconcilable.
What do you mean?
Well, so let me say that differently. All efforts that have been invested by brilliant people of the past have failed at that exercise. They just fail. And so the track record is so poor that going forward, I have essentially near zero confidence that there will be fruitful things to emerge from the effort to reconcile it.
If you have questions, comments, concerns, compliments, corrections, criticisms, or concepts for content, contact the show via email at godlessrevolution@gmail.com, by text or voicemail at 330-81-REBEL, or Twitter the twatter at TGR Podcast. Thank you!
I don't know if you guys know this.
Sounds like something Trump would say.
Did you hear about this? But in this case, I know something.
Oh.
Our president's a fucking child.
Big water.
Yeah,
ocean water.
I knew that.
Okay. Let me provide everybody with some examples here. Let's start with when President Trump visited Puerto Rico earlier this week. After Hurricane Maria battered the island and left millions without power or running water, right? We all know about that.
Are you going to talk about him being paper towel quarterback?
That's part of it.
Okay.
There's so much more. After Trump publicly criticized San Juan mayor's poor leadership, as he said, which is clearly not poor leadership.
It sounds like a lot of projection going on there.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen, I think enough from her to feel reasonably confident in saying that she is working for her people.
Oh yeah, she's doing what she can.
And on top of that, standing up to Trump is good leadership right now.
Yeah.
Paul Ryan. And
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch.
Yeah. Trump sought to project an air of professionalism and presidential gravitas during his visit to the storm-ravaged island. But the visit didn't go exactly according to plan.
What happened?
In a meeting with officials, Trump said that the number of people who died as a result of the hurricane was far lower than in a, quote, real catastrophe like Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, yeah. Fuck you, Puerto Ricans. You haven't gone through a real catastrophe.
Yeah. And he said that the recovery efforts have thrown the federal budget a little out of whack. Which is not only a stupid sounding thing to say, like just change your verbiage there. I'm not pretending he has options, but for alternating words.
He has the best words.
Yeah.
The biggest words.
But he's also giving people the false impression that he has a budget. Right?
Yeah. I'd like to see
that
it
it could be thrown out of whack. Like
how close are we to not having jobs in a couple of weeks there, Dan?
What? I think we're good until the end of November. Was it the end of November?
Yeah, I think November, yeah.
And then it's going to be that we may be taking unplanned vacation for an indeterminate amount of time.
Yeah. During a visit to a church in Puerto Rico's capital, San Juan, on Tuesday, which has served as a base for distributing aid, Trump was apparently astounded.
I'll bet that happens to him a lot.
By water purification tablets.
Oh my God, is that a real thing? I didn't. Did you know?
Did you know you could put these in water?
Have you guys heard this story?
You could put them in poo water and drink it.
Yeah, and pay attention, Scott Adams, because we're going to need to really work hard to make this some sort of secret genius.
Dogbert's not going to save you here, sir.
Yeah, real hard to be a secret genius.
So here's what happened when Trump encountered water purification tablets. Wait, you put it in dirty water? And then you can drink it after 10 or 12 hours, she explained. Would you do it? Would you drink it?
It's like a dare.
Sure, she said. Really? He said with a disgusted look across his face. Really? She said. Is this your company or something? Trump asked the woman, seeming suspicious of the aggressive pitch. No, she said, I'm part of the church. This is an interesting thing.
Well, couldn't they just pray over it?
Yeah.
Why do they need tablets?
Right. Yeah, make it holy water.
That's what Pence was saying.
So Trump started handing out the kits, saying, try that. About the water.
Don't make me look stupid. Use this.
You might die. I don't know, but you could try it. Really, you're going to be dead either way at this point.
Make sure you wait 12 to 14 hours.
After telling the crowd of assembled reporters and people affected by the hurricane to have a good time, Trump lobbed paper towel rolls into what he called a great crowd.
Jesus.
Trump then remarked that he'd never seen canned chicken before. Whoa, I've never seen that before, Trump said.
Coming from the man that eats well-done steak with ketchup.
With ketchup, yeah. And then he said, that looks kind of good.
Let's say nobody who was brought up on canned chicken ever.
I know. He goes, let's start handing that out. Do you feel like this? Pointing to it as if they were fucking dogs. The president then mimed tossing the heavy cans into the crowd as he did with the paper towel rolls before the crowd stopped him.
I'm just going to start winging these out there. If it hits you in the head, I'm sorry, but consider yourself lucky because now you've got some food.
Yeah.
If you can dodge a wrench.
And if you squeeze it really hard, you can get some liquid out and then you won't need the tablets for the water.
Chicken juice. Trump was also fascinated by the flashlights, shining them at both himself and the cameras assembled in the crowd. As he handed the flashlights out, he said, flashlights, you don't need them anymore. Did you know?
Starts rave dancing.
It's like a little portable sun. If you push a button, it makes light. It's
but
amazing.
It's daytime right now. You don't need these.
Did you know these existed? These are a thing.
Trump's administration has tried to paint the recovery efforts in a positive light, but the situation on the ground remains dire. Less than half of the island's 3.4 million citizens have access to clean drinking water, and more than 90% still don't have power. Distributing supplies to remote areas has proven exceptionally difficult due to the lack of trucks and navigable roads. He's a fucking child, Scott Adams, a child.
That's a fun word, navigable.
Navigable.
Navigable. What else you got?
God damn it.
Find it.
Let's do... Where did it go? Right here, yes.
I can't believe people like Scott Adams who think that Trump is just this secret genius.
He doesn't.
Waiting to be explored and recognized. Like, if only you knew he's playing chess. He's just making you think he's really stupid.
Yeah.
64-dimensional 3D chess, you know.
This one might not be so funny.
Oh, no.
Police arrested 143 people after protesters blocked traffic on a busy highway near downtown St. Louis as part of the ongoing demonstrations against the recent acquittal of a white former police officer in the 2011 premeditated murder of a black man. That's not hyperbole. There is a video.
Yeah. Saying, what did he say? Let's kill this fucker or something like that? Or we're going
to kill this fucker. Yeah. And then shot five rounds into his chest on approaching the car.
Yeah.
And then went back to his car to his go bag to potentially get something out.
And yeah.
Yeah. So, and let's remember, this isn't a downward move from first to second degree murder. It's complete acquittal. So no wrongdoing, right? Protesters gathered Tuesday evening and marched to Interstate 64, where some walked onto the roadway and blocked traffic for several minutes. Police began arresting people after protesters left the highway.
Well, and so you say no wrongdoing. It's my understanding that it's no wrongdoing according to police procedure and policy.
Sure.
We've investigated ourselves and we found no wrongdoing on our part.
Yeah. So it's not that, barring the policies that they have in place that say that they may do whatever if they feel whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's that, yeah, if it had been just a normal human being who had done this, fuck yeah, what you did is sketchy as fuck and we'll probably convict you on that.
Probably.
But you get what I'm saying. But because you're an officer and there are these specific policies in place that say that if you feel threatened as an officer, you have the right to do these different things. So it's not that the people on the jury may think that there was absolutely nothing wrong with what he did, but according to the laws or policies or regulations that are in place that protect this kind of behavior, they have no other recourse but to say that, well, yeah, what he did was shitty, but according to what they say they can or should do, he performed according to what is outlined in his duties and policies and procedures.
At least based on what the prosecutor puts forward to the grand jury.
Yeah.
And we have no idea what that is because there's no defense allowed in the grand jury.
Yeah.
So it's, and the standards of evidence in those are much lower than they are. And you can enter evidence that won't be accepted in the regular hearing. You basically say whatever you want.
Yeah. You could convict a what's the popular thing? You could convict a ham sandwich.
Yeah. So
based on what the prosecutor brings.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, protesters gathered Tuesday evening and marched to Interstate 64, where some walked onto the roadway and blocked traffic for several minutes. Did I say that already?
No, I don't think
police
so.
began arresting people after protesters left the highway. Police have not said what charges they will face. So wait a second. They're just going to find something to charge citizens with when exercising their right to protest? I mean, it seems like having video evidence of premeditation to kill, as in the case of Jason Stockley, it would be pretty simple to find something to charge with when they're just picking up citizens who are protesting and figuring out what they'll charge them with later.
Yeah.
When you have somebody on video saying they're going to kill someone, then they do it. And that's the problem. This is why they're protesting, because what the fuck is this guy getting acquitted for? And yet they have no problem picking up protesters and just throwing them in jail and saying, we'll figure it out later. Like if it's that easy to charge somebody, why is Stockley not charged with something?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I watched a video of this whole protest that was going on and how the cops like goose stepped over this old lady when they had their riot gear on. And then they arrested her after they trampled over her.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And then later on, like when everything was simmering down, I watched cops like banging in like people's windows on the street with their batons and pointing at other people for them to be arrested for destroying property. It's some bullshit.
Like the police were destroying the property and then pointing at somebody else. I didn't do it.
It was that guy over there. He threw a rock.
Wasn't me. Wow.
It's bullshit.
Authorities, sorry, what?
I was going to say, it's just the fact that they're on video and doing this shit and still getting away with it just blows me away.
Well, that's why they behave like that.
It's ridiculous.
Authorities have made more than 300 total arrests at demonstrations over the September 15th acquittal of Jason Stockley in the shooting of 24-year-old Anthony Lamar Smith following a high-speed chase. Protesters and civil liberties groups have accused the authorities of using heavy-handed tactics against demonstrators. So again, not only will there not be justice for the murder, But if you point out the fact that it's unjust, you'll be arrested and charged. So if protesting can get you arrested and charged, it seemed that bringing charges is not the difficult process, right? That's not the difficult part. If charges are not brought, it's simply because they don't want to bring them. And that's a very good reason for protest.
Yeah.
In a lawsuit filed after about 120 people were arrested September 17th, the ACLU of Missouri raised concerns about a police tactic known as kettling, in which lines of officers move protesters into a limited area. The lawsuit also accused police of unnecessarily using tear gas and pepper spray, arresting bystanders and journalists, and taunting some of those who were arrested. So I went to Wikipedia to look up kettling.
That sounds, yeah.
It's also known as corralling or containment. It's a police tactic for controlling large crowds during demonstrations or protests. It involves the formation of large cordons of police officers who then move in to contain a crowd within a limited area. Protesters are left only one choice of exit controlled by the police, or are completely prevented from leaving, with the effect of denying the protesters access to food, water, or toilet facilities for an arbitrary period determined by the police forces.
You can't even go to the bathroom.
Nope. Unless they tell you.
Well,
you
that
can.
sounds humane.
Police have, and they can keep shifting, officers in and out, rotating them too, so they can, they could just keep you there for however long they want.
Redonkulous.
Police have defended their actions, saying protesters threw rocks and other items at officers, sprayed them with unknown substances, and shattered shop windows. So
that means we get to treat them however we want.
Yep. And this strikes me a little like Tuck Rule Tom Brady complaining about refs, right? Or
I love that you said that against your own team. That's awesome.
It was a fumble.
Yeah,
I knew right from the.
It totally was.
Ever since that game, I've never said it wasn't,
dude. And that is why I fucking hate Tom Brady.
Everyone hates Tom Brady.
To this day, because of that, I fucking hate Tom Brady because he knew it was a fumble and he fucking lied about it. So. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I mean, your Raiders still didn't do anything to stop them.
This is true.
It was 13-3 in the fourth quarter, and they didn't win that game. But, so it's a lot like that. Or it's like Sargon saying he felt harassed by Thomas Smith. Sorry, nobody wants to hear that from Brady, Sargon, or the police. I especially like the complaint by police that, quote, they sprayed us with some unknown substances. Let me put it another way. It's like a white slaveholder saying that the use of the word cracker is a little racist. Daryl Gray, a protest organizer, was arrested Tuesday night for the second time in 5 days. He was also arrested Friday during a protest near Busch Stadium. They kettled us again. No one resisted. He said 2 social media journalists and others not involved in the highway blockage were among those arrested. Earlier Tuesday, St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner outlined to a city board a proposal that her office take over and lead all use of force investigations involving the police. She asked the board of aldermen for $1.3 million to launch an independent team that would include 4 prosecutors, 5 investigators, and 2 support staff. Currently, use of force cases are investigated internally by the police department, which is code for these cases will be dismissed internally. And then goes on to say both the community and police deserve an objective, fair, and transparent investigation, and is no longer acceptable for police to essentially investigate themselves.
Which is weird, right?
How did that ever even become? How was that ever the way? Who agreed that? Yeah, that's fine. That's a good system.
I have no idea how it came about.
It probably was just, okay, you guys are the cops. And then at some point they're like, some shady shit is going on. And like, okay, well, we'll look into it.
Yeah.
And then
we'll have other cops look
Let's make the cops of cops.
And just sort of slowly evolved. Oh, well, yeah, no, there's definitely a conflict if we look at it. So we won't do that anymore. The department over will. They'll do it. They'll investigate us.
Hey, Chuck, I heard you're investigating us. You still coming by to hang out this weekend?
Right. Yeah. So I don't know how that ever got started or how that's considered an acceptable situation.
No, it needs to be independent. It needs to be independent from police.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that'll do it for the regular portion of the show. We are going to move into the Patreon portion coming up. Yes. Before we do, I want to make sure that we thank our Patreon supporters. Before we do that, though, Matt, you want to recap what we're going to do in the Patreon portion? Throw a little teaser out? Because you were going to do the stuff that you brought. Because you're the man and you brought stuff.
Okay. And you people are missing out if you don't.
We don't call our fans you people.
Oh, right. Yes. Sure.
Well, you just call them the N-word. I mean,
yeah, I am going to be talking about Representative Tim Murphy.
Oh, the guy about the abortion.
We are going to find out what the White House response is to voting no on not killing people for being gay.
Huh.
And a little blurb about Nick Cannon.
Nick Cannon?
Yeah.
That name sounds familiar. Was he the one who was married to or is married to
Mariah Carey?
Oh. No, I was thinking of the chick that was in the Dukes of Hazzard movie.
Oh, you're thinking of Nick Lachey.
Oh, okay. Right.
Jessica Simpson?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you. I don't know fucking celebrities, man. I really don't.
Yeah.
What the fuck did Nick Cannon do recently?
Thank you all very much for tuning in. We want to thank our Patreon supporters. Alicia, Gaytheist, Mr. Aaron Burton, Anonymous, Larry Wilson, Marius Kot-Butrakowski, Dr. Dan, Matt's boss from the 2SC podcast, to whom we pledge loyalty. At least we have to say that we do. Janet Uter, Let Them Eat Kofefi, Stephen Andrus, Mo Cowbell, Christy Kalbach, Jolan Summer, Alan Firth, who is a new Patreon supporter.
Woohoo.
New Mania.
That's a new one as well.
Who is a new supporter as well. Rob Otto, Megan Kennedy, Andrew Vodopich, Brandy Hamrick, Jeremy Goodson, Angelica Pearson, Andy Faulkner, Utah Outcasts.
Hey, I know those guys.
Hey.
Wes Aaron, Matt Tuller.
All right.
Who is also a new Patreon supporter.
Finally got another Matt.
Yay! Purple Dragon and Taylor Grin.
That name sounds familiar.
Yeah, I had a great time with him last week. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah,
Dude,
they were awesome.
That was the longest recording session we've had since the double debates.
Right. And it was equally as painful. Just kidding.
No, it was a whole lot of
fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The discussion around the punching Nazis and everything. I had a great time. I love just talking to people about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Though Taylor, the way he commanded the mic a lot of the time, he really needs to start his own show. He
got
really
a great
does have
voice,
the chops
right?
for it.
Yeah.
He has the chops for it. I think he could do a show.
Well, he had a radio show for a while and doesn't do that anymore. But yeah, he's got a great voice and yeah, excellent. Fantastic.
Better than we three schlubs over here, Jonas.
But yeah, had a great time.
I meant Ryan, not Chris.
And thank you very much for joining us this evening, Chris.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure, as always. Like I said, we need to get you on here more often. It's been too long.
Absolutely.
But until next week, crucify that like button.
Leave a review to achieve nirvana.
And rate this show 5 times a day towards Mecca.
They're not going to do that.
They'll never do that. They won't even allow fucking people.
They won't even do the tiniest little thing. They won't do the tiniest little thing to move toward any. Yeah, they won't do any of that. They won't do any of it. They've had too much privilege for too long, and we know how people are with that. They're never going to give you a tiny little inch.
Oh yeah,
even if it's morally correct,
because it's oppression to them.
And that's why we hear all these bullshit arguments from people who don't understand or accept Black Lives Matter. That's why we hear all these bullshit arguments from guns rights people, because there aren't any good arguments. They're not on the moral side of it, and so to try to come up with anything to hold your position, you just sound like a fucking asshole or an idiot or both. Usually both. But they're not going to give any bit of it, not a bit.
Well, no, they won't back down from that position because they have to be right. Because it's what they want.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, and that's where you get into all that. You can have my guns, bullets first, and well, that's fine. Come take them. We'll go to war over this, or we've got 7 trillion bullets, and the fucking liberals have whatever. It's just
there's only 350 million Americans, so you come and try to stop us, fucker.
Yeah, I'm locked and loaded, ready. Fucking all that bullshit. That I see on Facebook.
I didn't realize your gun was worth more than a human life. I didn't realize that.
But it is, but the thing is, there really is a threat there. I mean, not just in the sense that they're saying things that are threatening, but there is a legitimate threat that, I mean, they're kind of right. I mean, they do have more weapons. They use them. They practice with them. You know, it's like, it would be like, it would be like if.
Practice for what though?
Exactly this kind of thing.
But they play with them. They don't, like, what are they practicing for? Like people who play an instrument practice the instrument. People who draw things or create artwork, they practice their craft. What the fuck do you practice with a gun?
Don't you
other than
sight
killing
it in?
people?
Oh, no, I know, but that's...
killing people or things. What do you practice with a gun? Like shooting it really straight? Fucking awesome, dude.
And far, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't quite work when you're in urban warfare.
But you still can get better at it, can you not?
Well, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, but there is some truth to that. I mean, that this is their wheelhouse. Like, and so when they want to sort of like say, well, yeah, well, we'll fucking kill all you assholes who don't have guns or don't use guns. I mean, I take that kind of seriously. Like, okay, well, this would be the same thing as if we had like a little thinky war. The Republicans have no fucking chance because they don't practice that. We do, you know?
Oh, fuck, this is hard.
Yeah.
A little thinky war. I like that.